if you want to just start by hitting play on the file I sent you, I think that is a good way to begin.
Okay.
Hey, wake up everybody and join our show. Viral news and awesome tunes, that's how we roll. We're Mason and Remy and together we joke. Warming hearts for all you great St. Louis folk. It's 93.7, so listen today. The unprofessional news because we say it our way. So if you want to giggle with your coffee and toast, it's here at the Mason and Remy Morning Show. All right.
Beautiful.
All right.
Absolutely. Welcome back. Hello to Remy and to anyone who is consuming this experiment. Thank you. Appreciate you coming by and hanging out with us. It's been kind of a cool adventure now that we've got like a couple episodes out. We've seen some of the reaction from various folks throughout the eras. So I just want to take a second to say thank you. You know, it's kind of a cool moment to be able to live right now.
I think it's also fun to see how people consumed it, because a lot of people have been commenting, I listen to this every day in Chicago, or I listen to you guys every day in St. Louis, or when I was on my way to elementary school or high school or whatever, the case may be, and make you feel really, really old. But it's been fun to see that, because even some people that I don't recognize, who may be coming out of the woodwork right now and sharing their experience with the show and with us. So keep the comments coming. If you got any questions, we're there to answer those for sure.
And please, if you had any friends that maybe you remember us, feel free to share it. You know what I mean? We're on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. And of course, if you're watching this, you're likely on YouTube. So if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. And I don't know if I've said this enough, but we're not making any money off this. This is not a job for us right now. We're just doing this. And if it so happens that, whatever things on YouTube need to happen, cool. Then I love that. And then it's good to know that people are on the other end. But this, I think for you and I, we talked a little bit about how this has been a little closure for us, a little bit of being able to kind of go back and remember where we were when this all started. So to recap a little bit of our journey until this point, which I believe is episode 3 we're in right now, we've talked about how we started, how we came to get to know each other, some of our first content that we ever created that actually led to us getting the job in St. Louis. And we talked about that process too, getting the invitation, the interview, the contract, the gig, you know what I mean? Like how it started is kind of where we are. So we wanted to kind of recap a little bit of where we left off, because it was back in the era where things were starting to kick off for us. We had Friday jams and unprofessional news. We were starting to make webisodes, and we want to talk about how we like invented Vine. I don't think anybody knows about it. How we got to meet Garth Brooks and so many other huge superstars of country music, and how they're not the people I'm going to be specific with Garth on this one.
Yeah.
I don't know how many other people, like I remember my initial time meeting a lot of country artists was like, wow, they're so real.
Mm-hmm.
Except Garth. But we'll get there in this episode. It's not the Garth that you know. We met a different Garth. But these kind of things happen when you go to these big country music gatherings, you know what I mean? We had now a morning show in a major market on what was a new country radio station. Country was moving its focus from some of those legacy artists that have been around for so long to new country artists, the younger guys who were starting to blaze a trail of their own, and who had been openers probably for like Alan Jackson. I had no doubt that some of those guys who were headlining double shows back to back at the amphitheaters were openers for that. So they had a good thing going. But we want to talk about that journey and what it's like to meet them. What happens at CMA Fest? Like some of the cool things and some of the not so cool things that happened at CMA Fest. Like how I embarrassed myself in front of the entire industry with a legend. We'll get into that. And honestly, I think in this episode, we'll dive into how we actually lost the morning show back in 2013 is when that happened. So
2013, yeah.
come with us on the journey as we dive back in to the work, what we were doing at this time. In 2010, April of 2010 is when we started. In our last episode, we talked about listening to these morning shows. So we had a couple weeks of prep time before we actually debuted with what we were doing, which was to bring that morning show that doesn't sound like all the country morning shows. A lot of legacy morning shows had their, and now it's time for country music news. Yeehaw. You know, it was very stereotyped. And I mentioned how we kind of like breaking stereotypes, and we wanted to be guys who look like this that work in country music, because guys who look like this also listen to country music. They're not just wearing a 10-gallon hat and a giant belt buckle. You know, something that I remember hearing specifically, there were these guys that were on another radio station in town. They went to go see Garth Brooks, and he said, I saw you put on your costume when you went to go see Garth. And he said, your costume? He said, yeah, you put on your big hat, your belt buckle, your boots, your costume. And that always felt like to me. I know some people live there, love that, and enjoy that, but that's not everybody. But that was the stereotype, right? And I feel like that was something that we wanted to kind of start breaking off, so that when you came to meet us, we were normal people with lives and girlfriends, wives, those kind of things. We wanted to kind of cut our own new country niche out of what was really a huge country music town. St. Louis had such a huge following on legendary radio stations there, especially in the country music world. Something not a lot of people know about the heritage of radio station call letters are like when there's 3 or 4 really, really old stations have 3 call letters, right? But the newer ones have 4. So when you find these stations, these legendary stations that only have 3 letters, it's because they've been there for a long time. And some of them, like WIL in St. Louis, had established themselves as the home for country music. And newer stations that were like promoting this new country thing. KSD still had those 3 letters, but they were, I think, classic rock at one point.
There were several different formats, yeah.
And the new country thing was just starting to come out. So we were supposed to be this hybrid of a fast-paced top 40, you know, mainstream morning show, but in the country music world, still talking about those mainstream. I think our target listener was like an adult female, right? Like, which is what it's supposed to be. Maybe even a little younger. We would say 18 to 49 it would be the target demographic of the content that we were airing when we think of who we're talking to. Oh, yeah.
Jennifer, I think she was either 31 or 32. She was a single parent with 2 kids, and probably some sort in the medical field of some sort, probably a nurse or something. And that's kind of like who you envisioned when you were talking, or when you were deciding on what content to talk about on the air. So.
Yeah, they put this composite of the average listener together, and they would say, this is who you're talking to. Like, think about if she would be into what you're talking about. You know what I mean? So when it came into like, this dude needs help, it was what is Jennifer going to think is interesting? What's the drama, right? Like, were those all 100% like real? No, probably not. No, but that was us getting our feet wet. And just, some of them were. Like, I definitely remember starting some drama with a few of them. But there were some that weren't. And this is us getting our feet wet. Something we're going to talk about in this episode is like the ramp up. Some of the cool moments in our rise in St. Louis between 2010 and 2013. And that's probably where this episode will go. So let's dive into some of that stuff that we were doing as a new country morning show with new medias to explore. We can talk first about, and we have already at length, our love for YouTube and creating these videos, but we wanted to do these things to stand out, to be different. I think a lot of at the time was just, hey, we're doing an interview with a country artist. Come on out and see us at whatever. And we wanted to do different stuff. Where do you think is a good point to start on our collection of videos from these couple of years? Do we start with 7-second videos and talk about Vine?
Or do you want to start with the arrival to St. Louis, like the leaving of the old station, and then that was the first video that we uploaded on our Mason and Remy YouTube channel.
And if I remember, does not have a lot of views because we did not promote it at all. I don't think we released it. We were worried about people figuring out where we were going. Did we tell anybody when we left in Bloomington Normal that we were going to St. Louis and we were going to country? I think we were like, we can't say.
We couldn't say anything because there was someone still working in the mornings.
That's right. This happens so much in radio.
Then we couldn't say anything.
I hate that this happens so much in radio, but it does. It's business, right? So they're looking at who's going to replace whoever's on the air already. There was someone already on the air at this radio station, and we were like signing our deal. And so we couldn't say we were going somewhere because that person, it would basically be saying you're I'm taking your job, right?
Yeah.
So you wait until they handle whatever they're handling to be able to make your debut. So we recorded this video leaving WB&Q studios for we don't know where, right? Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Here, I'll go ahead and play it. It's definitely dated.
I want to give a quick caveat that like the cardboard cutouts that you see in these videos are in no way politically affiliated. That was so not a thing in those moments for me. Like I was just like, this is funny. And now I look back and I go, oh, those are like political figures.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Here we go.
Let's do it.
Factor crap?
No.
Balderdash?
No.
Okay.
All right. You ready?
I think so.
Got everything?
Oh.
Studio is so dated.
What? Come on. You know you love it. You know you love it.
So now what?
I don't know. I think we get some beers.
I like where your head's at.
That was it.
And then there's more. There's one little thing here. Drag it out. Drag it out.
Yeah.
I really like it. Hello.
Can we tell them where yet?
No. Hey.
And that's it.
That was on the balcony of the Metro Loft?
Yep.
Or was that at the radio station? So we had been.
Yeah, that was the Metro Lofts. Yeah, that was the lofts that we had talked about in the previous podcast.
That's like an apartment complex in St. Louis, right near Barnes Jewish, right near Forest Park, which is where they put us up for a month or two so we could get moved in and start working. So the first video we ever uploaded to our YouTube channel right there was our exit from WB&Q to who knows where. We couldn't say where. And then we come on the air. And I don't know if anybody knew what to expect or if we really had a good like shot or if people really. No, I think I know that nobody understood what we were doing in the beginning, right? Like it took a lot to convince people that we were going to be able to get the country music audience onto the internet. I think that was a big challenge for us.
Yeah. And like you had mentioned in the previous episode, we were coming in after a morning show that I don't really know what why that whole thing kind of fell apart, but I know that it was a beloved show. Everybody loved it. And so a lot of our initial interactions with people were met with questions of where is this person? What happened to the old morning show? Because a lot of times in radio, your favorite radio DJ just gets let go and then they vanish from the face of the planet and nobody actually knows. There's no explanation. The program director isn't getting on the air and going, well, they were let go because we have no money, or they were insubordinate, or, whatever the case may be. It just doesn't happen. So a lot of people are left wondering what happened. And it was kind of disheartening, to get your first big radio gig in a top market, and then every single broadcast you go to or remote that you go to, it's just met with questions of what happened to the last people. Oh yeah, who are you again? And
if
we were doing crazy stuff too. I mean, we were doing weird videos. We were doing weird segments on the air. This is all very new for the St. Louis area as far as this radio station's country audience was concerned. So I get it, like I understand it, but it was disheartening for
It
sure.
was. I don't recall if that was mentioned to us as we were coming in, like, hey, you guys are going to be replacing, but we didn't. It was two people before us because we came in after somebody else had already been there for a little bit, kind of in between us and the team that was on before.
Yeah.
But there were still some folks that were around from that era that were still and are still around there at that station. So it is possible to keep a job for 20 years, but rare in this world. So yeah, we were coming in and doing really different stuff, bringing something I don't know if everybody fully had confidence in, which was like trying to direct people to our other content. Social media was a big part of it. I think I had mentioned Twitter in the previous episode too, where the guy who invented it, Jack, happened to be from St. Louis. I don't mean to brag, but his mom still follows me, But so I don't know if that's where we popped off, or if it was Facebook and the algorithm hitting right, or if it was YouTube, being such a new platform that we did not realize how much exposure it had, but we quickly saw how that paid off. After a little bit of success, we started to see how these things were getting more of an audience than those 1 or 2 minutes that we were on the air.
Yeah.
So it's interesting and challenging for us to have decided to take this route, but I think that we knew. And I think that's probably why we're doing what we're doing right now and talking about this, because we still know that this is more of a opportunity to reach more people than that. Why are we
Yeah.
limiting ourselves to just a country music audience?
Yeah. And I think that that's a lot of the downfall of radio these days anyway, is just that there are so many like old white guys in the tower that are afraid to embrace the digital side of, like, if I were to go to the radio station and say, what infrastructure do we have laid out if I want to make a vlog and we want to sell certain products, like Samsung comes to us and they want to advertise a new TV, where would I send that Samsung rep and how would we sell that? Doesn't exist still, and it's 2024. So you can bet it didn't exist back then, but it didn't matter for us. It was basically just getting as much buzz around the show as we possibly could, and we felt that social media was a good vehicle for that.
Because we could do things while not on the air, right? Like you could share moments of the show after the show, or share creations that would then bring people to the show. I think the idea being that we would make videos, people would see them and then go, hey, I want to hear these guys. So I think that was some of the idea between, let's just pump out some videos. Let's just make some stuff. Let's hope that they go. Let's like throw all the spaghetti at the wall. Nobody has a long attention span anymore. How can we hit them with like quick little nuggets, right? And this is where I say I think we invented Vine. This is where we will take that to the bank.
Unfortunately, we can't though, because Vine doesn't exist anymore.
Well, right. But the concept of short form videos in some way, shape, or form being as entertaining as possible, we wanted to do that. And the only medium at the time was YouTube. So we started shooting 7-second videos.
7-second videos.
They took 1 second off of it. Okay, now you got a whole new product. Okay, guys. Thieves.
I've got some examples of those 7-second videos pulled up.
Okay.
Would you like to hear? I'll start with one we called Bread Fight.
Bread Fight 7. Clementine got disqualified. See, you didn't. It was so fast. Right now, this is like prime TikTok material, right? Like I feel like these are reels. We were doing reels 15 years ago.
Very much so. I was gonna bring that point up. Like this content would go maybe not some of it, but like the process behind how we came up with these would totally fly today.
I want you to know Mason and Remy's 7-second videos walked so TikTok and Reels can run. You know what I'm saying? We
Yeah.
paved the path. And yet here we are, just a tiny little morning show in St. Louis, just dicking off. You know what I mean? Just
Maybe Jack's mom told whoever created Vine. Maybe it was her fault.
it's my fault for being friends. Oh no.
Dang it. And you're still friends. How many
Yeah.
other ideas are you feeding
I'm
to her?
going to unfriend right now.
Hang on, I've got a couple more I want to play.
It's Elon's thing now anyway. Jack's out. Does it even get there? Was that it?
That was it.
It's just
That's
me
7
eating,
seconds.
it's just me eating cheese.
You eating cheese. Hang on. I want to play my favorite 7-second video that we ever did. It's so weird, but I'm gonna let it rip.
Pipes, 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 pipes.
Tree. It'll go so hard and then straight left turn. Oh my gosh. Can you
I think that originated when we were on the Metrolink. We were headed to a baseball game, I think, and there was just a bunch of
pipes?
you see a ton of pipes, on all the buildings. There's pipes everywhere.
Could I ask you to play it again? I just want, can we play it? Because Reels, this is where we missed out. We didn't think to loop him. You know what I mean? Reels play again. You get to watch it a second and third time because things are coming so fast. There's bagpipes, there's smoking pipes, there's all kinds of pipes in one tree.
One tree.
Pipes, 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 pipes.
Tree. The Blue Man Group. There was your motorcycle might have been in there. I think at the time you had a motorcycle.
Think about that. Add that to are there more wheels or windows? Are there more pipes?
So we were making these videos regularly, and we would go on the air and play them really quick and go see our latest 7-second video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, bread fight, so stupid, but it was something that we could say that we made, that we could share, that would give people a little piece of us so that they would know who we are, right? And they would not necessarily know it, but over the next 10 years grow with us. That was kind of what you wanted to do in radio, was you come in, you make an impact, you connect with people, emotional connections. That's why you talk about your life. That's why you talk about what happens in the world, so that you can go, oh, I see this guy gets it. You know what I mean? We're friends. Oh, we like the same music. Oh, that video was hilarious. When we would go into the unprofessional news, we would have the same take as somebody on a news story, and they would be like, okay, I get it. I remember one of the big points we made was we're not saying the name of any of these guys who shoot up a place. You know what I mean? We never wanted to say the name of these people. It was the way that we could show who we were while doing the news, right? Yeah. We didn't want to make them famous. I remember getting pushback on that. I remember bosses telling us not to do that. It blows my mind.
Yeah, it was so weird. Yeah, because that, again, going back to the us trying to be as authentic as we possibly can. The guys that you could walk up to at a concert and say hi to and take a picture with and have a good, easy conversation with. And I think that's with those moments with the program directors and, the coaching and all the stuff coming in and kind of infiltrating that authenticity. It just, started to chip away at the armor a little bit. And, you'll see where the story goes, but that was one little piece of that puzzle for sure.
Yeah, in our first year, when we were brought in by the guy who hired us, who knew the plan, right, who had our philosophy down, we were to be this morning show in this genre, but doing things, moving forward, moving into a future. New people would come in and, like you said, chip away a little bit. Not only program directors, consultants, salespeople who suddenly, are like, hey, why don't you try, and why don't you stay in your own lane? But I'm sorry. We have a lot of folks who did help us and were helpful. And we had many who didn't and weren't, as everybody does in their journey. So no ill will. We're all better now because of it. But there were those hiccups, challenges, speed bumps, learning moments. To grow with. How do we do what we're trying to do, but operate in this historically slow, hard world of radio that was unwilling to start adapting to the new world. Like, remember when we switched to the iHeart branding that took over, right? And suddenly we were like, yeah, we're moving into the future. But that was I feel like the last forward momentum for terrestrial radio. I don't know. We can come back to the business now that we're out of it some other time. We are just kind of looking back through some of the stuff that we were doing in the beginning that got us that foot up, a step ahead of the competition, got us a new audience of younger folks who probably had not adopted radio. You know, when you listen to some of the folks that were on, they weren't identifying with younger people. And rightfully so. Some of them targeted the adults, but when you come in and you have a younger audience, like I said, you grow with them. They grew with us. We did so much stuff here in 5 years, from going from 2 young guys to being almost 2 married guys with families in that time. And so many listeners did with us. So we're trying to be like these. We're just young and we're having fun and we're making 7-second videos. There was so much stuff in there. Were there any other of those short videos? What do you have? What other ones? I mean, there was a huge catalog of them, but
I've got one more that I think that you'll like.
Hot dog dancing.
So it's very faint, but you can see Mason in a hot dog costume on his balcony of his apartment and me saying, is that a guy dancing in a hot dog costume?
Just a 6-second video that I think at one point I remember hoping maybe someone will realize that's a Metro Lofts, like, and go like, hey, is that the Metro Lofts? Like, and whatever could help us to get a little footing in that world is what we were going for. So we were just peppering content. We would do Friday jams on professional news. This dude needs help, the great debates, all these little pieces of on-air content, but we also wanted to have off-air content like this that lived on. This was before podcasts were even like a huge thing. How did you have captured moments from radio that could live on in a different place? We wanted to kind of start moving in that direction. And so while it was a little difficult in the beginning to get people to, pop on board with what we were doing, we got a foothold because of the success that it saw. Quickly, we started realizing, hey, we're doing something here. And we started making bigger content. We wanted to make music videos. I know we shared Friday jams every week and like jams about different like events that were going on for like a float trip or other moments we started realizing where we could do like Halloween or the start of the baseball season or and even in times where we just heard something funny and wanted to make a song out of it. That happened a lot. There were a few remixes on our page of just like these viral moments that happened. And I know we have a few more of these videos that we wanted to share to kind of look at some of the stuff we were doing as we go through like our whole time together and our body of work from this era, the first few years where we were in St. Louis. Things that stick out to me were the float trip songs, which we already saw. Some of the work we did with the Cardinals, which was very cool.
Yeah.
A very probably one of our biggest viral videos, which I think is the reason that we were linked to being so successful in St. Louis. And a few other nuggets. I know that you have a few ready to like show. Where did you want to start with those?
I don't know. I think these all kind of happened around the same time, so I don't know exactly like date wise, but we could start with Shit St. Louis and Say, because I feel like that was kind of that was also a meme that was happening on the internets.
Yeah.
And people were, basically anything, shit plumbers say, whatever teachers say. And it's so relatable, especially it was Chicago. That's who started. That's where I saw it. And I was like, we need to do one for St. Louis like now.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did it, and it did pretty well. So here's Shit St. Louis and Say. And a lot of this is funny because it's kind of prophetic.
Sorry, man. Stuck in traffic on 270.
World Series champions.
Mm-hmm.
Morning.
Marnin.
Where'd you go to high school?
Rams lose again.
Sorry, man. I was stuck on 60 farty again.
Screw Albert Pujols.
It's river to pear.
You got any toasted ravs? You have any toasted ravioli? Oh, you got any T-Ravs? You got any toasted ravs I could dip in Provel cheese?
Oh my God, what a huge win for those Redbirds over the Cubbies last night.
Wow.
Sorry, man. I was stuck on farty far.
It's gravois, not gravois or gravois.
Giant ketchup bottle in Collinsville.
Hey, what's the Sage Ballet? I'm thinking about taking my fiance. You think it's coming to the Fox?
Let's go Blues! Construction on the Poplar again today. I heard the Rams might leave.
Were they playing? The pageant?
Chaffetz?
Kiel Center?
Family Arena?
Edward Jones Dome?
Two Hill?
Peabody?
Riverport?
It's actually Verizon Wireless Amphitheater now.
No, it's always Riverport to me.
25 million a year.
We should go on the brewery tour. Free beer.
Sorry, man. I was stuck on 70.
I heard the Blues might be leaving.
Who, you got any pork steak?
Now the other side of 60 farty is Forest Park.
Anheuser-Busch products and a variety of Cardinals t-shirts. Everybody knows it's emos.
The square beyond compare.
You think the Cardinals would ever leave?
You shut your mouth.
It's Lee May Ferry.
Hey, where's Ballpark Village?
Remember Kurt Warner?
You pay $20 downtown, park at the casino, take the Metrolink over the river.
Hey, you want to go to the boat tonight?
No, wait, too far away.
How about the lake?
Done.
I live in the city.
I'm going to Soulard, second biggest Mardi Gras, right next to New Orleans.
Oh, man.
So like a couple, like I have so many notes in thinking about this. You mentioned every other city had one of these, and history repeats itself. Shit St. Louis and say is just, hey, we're whatever on TikTok, right? It's the same meme, just again and again. Like, hey, we're radio DJs. Of course we liked it, you know what I mean? Or whatever. I'm sure that was a thing. And it just felt like this was where it clicked for us, that these moments, these viral moments, we can put our own spin on them. We can Mason and Remy them, or we can St. Louis them, or in whatever way possible. I remember the Harlem Shake was another one. Where like everybody was making these videos, and we got all the interns together and we got everybody into the studio and made one. These moments that we started to see, like, how can we take big moments and make them hyper local and get, I mean, we had our logos all over that thing, right? Like, and maybe people didn't realize it because they were just enjoying the entertainment of what was happening there. They didn't realize that we were secretly just saying, please listen to our show and notice us. You know what I mean? Like, notice us. So we started to do those things. We started to make those videos, tried to create those viral moments of our own for not just St. Louis, but for the radio station and for the show.
And the Rams did leave.
They did. Oh, so many notes.
Village now exists.
Yeah. So that video, what year was that? Like, it had to be 2010. It was probably 5 or 6 years before they actually ever even broke ground on Ballpark Village.
2012.
They talked so much about Ballpark Village in St. Louis for so many years that it was just legend that it's not a real thing. So that's why we mentioned it in the video. And it actually happened years later.
Yeah. Blues are still here. Cardinals are still here.
But like the Rams leaving, it also was a thing that people talked about forever and ever. Yep. Albert Pujols. Like, screw that guy.
Man, $22 million is like nothing now. It's crazy, these baseball contracts that happen. But yeah, I think it is just that connection with, yes, you do hear these things. You do hear the older generation in St. Louis saying farty far. And you're like, why is the A like that? But it's something that you can't say in the moment, like, oh, your accent is a little, it's odd. Yeah. But you put it up here, and then when somebody else says it, you're like, yep, that's hilarious. And I'm glad I'm not the only one that thinks that. And that's a lot of how this video and how these memes kind of work, right? It's that thing that want to say out loud, but maybe don't have the outlet to do it. And now here you got two guys in front of you saying, I'm going to take my wife to the Saget Ballet, things like that.
Don't, by the way, if you are a ballet fan, don't search that, or at least incognito that browser.
Yeah.
So there were all these moments that we saw, like we were starting to piece together how to break through in St. Louis, because we were hitting on all cylinders in the first couple of years. We were young and hungry, and the adrenaline would keep us going through a lot of it. Well, of course, I'm sure we had our moments where it was difficult, and those riffs, those disagreements in creative philosophy between Remy and I. Not to mention the fact that we were just in a fight when we took the job, and years go by that I don't know if we ever addressed. You know what I mean? We were just like, yeah, whatever. We're doing this thing now, so it doesn't matter anymore. We're here, and then we just pushed on.
We'll move on.
We just pushed forward. So we kept going through all that stuff, and we kept making these different videos. So moments would pop up, things would pop into our head. We would hear, do you have Brian Williams?
Oh yeah.
When there was a whole movement of the incandescent light bulbs. This was like a big news story. They're phasing out incandescent light bulbs, and of course there were those purists. I want my incandescent light bulbs. They went out and bought them all, right? Like it was a whole trend about how I don't want these new lights. They don't look the same. Like this one is very white, but this one is very orange. You know what? It still haunts me to this day. But old school light bulbs was a moment for us where we started to say we can make anything into music, and we can have fun doing it.
This started as an unprofessional news soundbite.
That's right.
And in the studio, there's a tool that we use called a Vox Pro. And it's basically a controller that allows you to scrub through audio, edit, and all with it's like I don't know, I would equate it to maybe like a game controller where you can just do everything with your hands. You don't have to, drag and, do the mouse and all that stuff. It's meant for quickness. And there is a play from beginning button. And Mason hit it once. He hit it again. He did the old school light bulbs, and it just flowed. And we both kind of looked at each other and we were like, can we make a song out of just that? And then we did. And Brian Williams actually said something about it, which was awesome.
He did. He later, didn't he share it on Twitter?
Yeah.
But first off, rest in peace, Brian Williams' career, because he went on later to talk about how he was under attack in some helicopter, but he never really was. So he then was like no longer a news guy. But he was one of the funnier guys because he would go on like Conan, I remember, and be hilarious.
Yeah.
This also is another moment where we will probably get copyright problems because this music is from some library that we had access to in radio. We had a lot of just like they paid for music licenses, and we would just take the clips and put it over top. So Brian Williams talking about old school light bulbs, and then us rapping, like we sampled Brian Williams. Yeah, that hit the button. Old school light bulbs, old school light bulbs. I remember hitting that, and I did that a lot. I abused the hell out of that button every day because I wanted to make sure whenever we were running a call, I would hit it. Hey, I would make sure it was queued up to the start because I've been bitten so many times by it not being queued up to the start that I always make sure, hey, old school light bulbs, find a beat, write some lyrics. We got a jam.
Yep.
It's kind of what we do.
Here she is.
Oh yeah, we shoot a music video.
The day is coming when, because of an act of Congress, we all have to get rid of our traditional bulbs and switch to those energy-efficient bulbs, and a whole lot of people just don't want to. We're talking about the old school light bulbs. Old school light bulbs. Traditional bulbs. Energy-efficient bulbs. Old school light bulbs. Light bulb police. Energy-efficient bulbs. A whole lot of people just don't want to. Old school light bulbs. The government, Congress, is banning sale of traditional light bulbs in this country. Old school light bulbs.
Yeah.
Can I first just pause and go, we're playing this on a country radio station. And this is a dirty South gangster rap beat. Again, making everyone who let us in question exactly what the hell are they doing. But we stuck to it, and I don't know about, I rapped hard on this country station a lot of times.
Yep.
I just wanted to point out that we definitely played a lot of hip hop stuff on a country radio station on purpose. Okay.
A whole lot of people just don't want to. Light bulbs, old school light bulbs.
Trying to take your freedom, they gonna make you choose. You cannot have an incandescent Edison, you lose. But with the CFL, I don't get light quick. It takes a few seconds when I flip over the switch. They're all curled up and looking kind of funky. They don't fit in my lamp, yo, I'm a lampshade junkie. These old school bulbs, they get so hot. I'm gathering a stockpile, I got a whole box.
Old school light bulbs, old school light bulbs, old school light bulbs, old school bulb, old school bulb, old school bulb.
I'm a light bulb monster, listen to me roar. CFLs break mercury on the floor. I miss them old school bulbs, they were like a good friend. Don't care if they're illegal, I will use them till the end. They stop production, they don't make them anymore. Find them on the back shelf at the dollar store. Nobody's telling me which light bulb to use. So many lamps plugged in, I'm about to blow a fuse.
Old school light bulbs, old school light bulbs, old school light bulbs, old school bulb, old school bulb, old school bulb, old school light bulbs, old school light bulbs, old school light bulbs, old school light bulbs, old school bulb, old school bulb, old school bulb, old school bulb.
Yo, we need to get out of here. Turn off the light.
Old school bulb.
There she is.
Wow.
Man, that still slaps. It's still, I look,
Still slaps.
like it's one of those things where like I don't want to like gloat, but that was awesome and it should have done better.
It was fun, and like this is the hard part of us, like when we always looked at the stuff we made and how hard it is to watch the performance of these things. Like, did they understand at the time what we were doing? No. Shit still slaps. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Sorry if you did. Sorry if you weren't on board, but that shit's hot. And it's ridiculous. You know what I mean? Just the idea of it and the audacity of it is kind of funny. Like, to go, you did what? Like, that's right, we did. And
you're a lampshade junkie, you know?
It was, I was a lampshade junkie. That was that's the fun stuff that we did. Is super fun to look back at and reminisce about, because I think I remember living in that fear of not just like the float trip songs, but a lot of the jams that we did. I'm no singer, I'm a lyricist. I'm a bit of a rapper in some aspect, spoken word artist, poetry. But I don't was that me or was that you? I don't know, but it was music.
It also might have been the karaoke track or whatever we used too. I'm not 100% sure. But I remember using the stock footage that they used in the news story. That's all the black and white stuff. Mm-hmm. I stole some footage from some light bulb production factory video. I mean, the copyright infringement was just, it was all over, you know, but this was like pre anybody enforcing that really. So, but yeah, I just remember sitting down and like writing all of the things about light bulbs. And it's like the weirdest, like how weird is that we're writing a rap song about light bulbs because we heard Brian Williams say old school light bulbs. And that is kind of the beauty of the creativity that we had. And I always remember that there's a difference between when it would just happen like that and then when we were forced into something. And again, with the juxtaposition of, hey guys, make a viral video versus it just happens. I always hear, I forget who the poet is. There's an actual poet that would say ideas are like the wind. You can, as the wind passes, you can write it down. You can take the wind and you can harness it, or you can let it go. And I think we did a good job of harnessing the wind when we could. But it doesn't always, it's hard to manufacture those moments. And I think that's where we saw some struggles progressing through the food chain of radio. So
yeah. Later in our years, it got way more difficult to do that and feel confident with what we were doing. Because I think we had these successful moments along our first couple of years, and everybody was like, great, do that again. You know what I mean? And for us, it was the challenge of new thing, right? Like, we want something fun and new to come out of this. Don't just want to do the same thing. But then we would end up doing a Friday jam for 10 years because it worked, and it is still and was the most popular part, right? Like, the biggest thing how do I say this without sounding, when you think of Mason and Remy, weird thing to say, but it's been talked about. Like, what do you think? What would you think about it? It was probably Friday party jams. Something along those lines. So do you lean into the thing that you're known for and are successful for, or do you steer in another direction and want to broaden your horizons and branch out? Like, sure, for you, it's Friday jams. For us, it was writing songs and having these moments. So when we went to an old school Light Bulbs, or even a Team Fredbird Thrift Shop remix of the Macklemore song, that was a flash in the, like, one time Macklemore had a big hit, and he had a couple of them. I'd like to give Macklemore more flowers, but I think that there's a little bit of a controversy around him one year for winning like a best rap Grammy over some really talented artists.
Yeah.
So it's hard to be like, I'm a Macklemore fan. Just like, I don't know how many people say that out loud, but I think that we respected what he was doing, because he was, what we're doing right now is what Macklemore did with music.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he didn't have a boss telling him. He didn't want that boss to tell him what he was doing. So he started doing it on his own. And this song really hit for him in that time. Thrift Shop was the name of the song, right? I'm going to pop some tags. I feel like I want to leave as you are going to play this song, because I don't want to see. I want to hide. This is, I feel like, where I start to stretch and go, all right, it's a little embarrassing. I'm a little embarrassed as I start. Yeah, man. Yeah, there's a lot of the stuff that I remember going, do I share this with my friends, and do they think it's cool? Because,
hell yes.
Because if you are outside of St. Louis, like, this does not track, right? Like, and also, if you don't tolerate Macklemore, this does not grab. Like, if you see Macklemore and you turn out, like, you're done. But what we did was unique in its time, and it led to a partnership with a Major League Baseball team. So this was our attempt at bridging the gap and trying to seed the field to hopefully grow a relationship. And it worked. Yep. It worked. We'll talk about it after we watch our Thrift Shop remix of the Team Fredbird jam. It's always different. Every video. No consistency for us.
Fredbird, bird, Fredbird, bird, Fredbird.
Hot dog again.
Bird, Fredbird, bird, Fredbird, bird, Fredbird, bird, Fredbird, bird, Fredbird, bird.
I'm gonna chant real hard. Only got 2 tickets in my pocket. Red birds are hunting, aiming at the playoffs. Team Fredbird is awesome. I'm gonna chant real hard. Only got 2 tickets in my pocket. Red birds are hunting, aiming at the playoffs. Team Fredbird is awesome.
Champions Club, like, what up? I got the best spot. I'm just pumped up off some tickets from my friend's pop.
Ice on the beers, so dang frosty, the people like dang.
11 banners on the marquee.
Rolling in super deep, headed to my bleacher seat, wearing cardinal red except my sneaker shoes, shirt seat.
Girls in jersey pink, family sitting next to me. He's on the mound with the pitch. It's a swing and a miss.
It's time for the 7th inning stretch.
If they pop it up, catching it foul or fair, up on a stolen base, a double play, a squeeze, a throwing at the plate.
Another strikeout from another player in a red cap. Golden glove, get 3 down, and now we're up to bat.
I'm looking at the Lou one, alt jersey, hella dope. Try and get a win at Busch Stadium, you hella won't. And you hella won't.
Hey, Fredbird. Wanna go to Busch Stadium?
I'm gonna chant
tickets in my pocket. Redbirds are hunting, aiming at the playoffs. Team Fredbird is awesome. I'll wear my all red clothes. I look incredible. Even the beer man knows. From green seats to the very back rows. I'll wear my all red clothes. I look incredible. Even the beer man knows. From green seats to the very back rows. I'm gonna chant go Cards! I got 2 tickets in my pocket. Redbirds are hunting, aiming at the playoffs. Team Fredbird is awesome.
That was cringy for you?
Another hot copyright strike for the Mason and Remy YouTube channel, probably. I definitely think.
For sure.
I definitely think we're going to end up with some issues in this episode. But was it cringy for me? Maybe it's more I just hate seeing the things I've done. Like I hate, watching myself. You know how everybody always says that the first time they hear themselves, like when they call into a radio station, like, "Oh, I sound like that."
Yeah.
So like magnify that by 25 years and also visually. That's how I feel is when I see something, I'm like, if you say it's good, I believe you. I don't want to spend any more time on it because I will pick myself apart and go, I hate that. Like, look at my hair. I had good style. I feel like I felt good about my shoes and stuff. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But yeah, that was a big moment, I think, for us because it got us noticed by the Cardinals.
Yeah.
It
was the same kind of tactic that I used when I first got into radio, when I was told by the program director originally that they didn't have anything for me. And then I went to more low hanging fruit, which was the afternoon show. And I said, "Hey, can I do anything for you?" And I think it was an inadvertent kind of like, well, Team Fredbird might play, they might, the girls in Fredbird might do something with us for some extra exposure. And we knew Fredbird 2 at the time, the Fredbird B. That is not him. That is Fredbird A, who wanted to be in this music video, and still have yet to actually meet that man without a costume on.
Oh yeah, because you book the mascots, right? Like for events and things. They have a very busy schedule. By the way, very lucrative career you can have if you are a major sporting team mascot. You could the appearances and stuff. And yeah, we knew one of those folks and thankfully had connections through, and it worked this way through Budweiser and Anheuser-Busch and their connection to the Cardinals, that we were able to turn that song into like regular appearances during Cardinal games. That like started our friendship with the office at the St. Louis Cardinals, in that we would get to go to like the family games on Sundays. We would do a live broadcast from there, from the Bowtie Bar at Busch Stadium every Sunday. Like imagine doing a remote for the baseball team. Like, no, do they need you to sell tickets? Not in this town. You know what I mean? Like, this town loves baseball. I can't believe we are even able to be associated with this team, which has such a legendary history and an iconic life. Are you seeing this fly in here?
No.
Okay. I'm sorry. He is flying around, and I thought I had seen one on your camera too. So I wasn't
a fly down here as well.
Do you really? Okay. All right, folks. Little Easter egg. How many times can the fly disrupt our broadcast?
This is like that Breaking Bad episode where that's all they do the entire time.
It feels like it now. Episode 1, we used indicative several times. Episode 3 is the fly episode.
I like
as
that.
as we kind of take a look back at some of the things that led us down our path of our career, I think that these are pivotal moments for us. Like when we established that we are a show that can work with a major sports team, that's kind of a big deal. I mean, you're moving on from like local beer money to like Major League Baseball events, and it's such a day. The baseball season, it's such a thing in St. Louis. You want to be a part of it. And so that was our way of connecting to the Cardinals.
Yeah. Can I play something?
Yeah. What do you got?
This is off the cuff.
And tonight, the Cardinals once listeners at 93.7 The Bull, St. Louis's new country. Here to throw out a ceremony.
This is the result.
First mention two of the most popular personalities in local radio. Full zone, Mason and Remy. All right, guys, right out the mound. Your first pitch.
What year was this? You know?
Hustling out there for a big moment.
John Hewlett trying to tell us to hurry up. Big shout out. Legend. You can hear the song.
There he is.
You can hear the song playing in Busch Stadium. What a huge moment.
Yeah. Our song, the Team Fredbird Thrift Shop remix, is playing throughout every speaker at Busch Stadium while we are on the mound. That is how that all, it was just.
Nails it.
And then
of course he nails
and
it.
everything.
Former pitcher, baseball guy his whole life. Me, I learned how to play football from Madden on the PlayStation 1. I have soft hands. Of course it went outside. But yeah, so that was like just a few short years of like, hey, we're starting in St. Louis. Hey, let's make some songs. Oh my God, we're working with the Cardinals. What are we doing? Not only John Hewlett announcing our names at Busch Stadium. That man, huge legend in his own right, not only with the Cardinals, but in St. Louis radio. Never in my life did I ever think that would be what's happening on like a random day of my life. But I remember our now wives were there. Like, it was such a moment. It was so cool. Is that the first? Did you throw out another first pitch?
I did.
Okay, later. Okay, later. So I was gonna say
that kind of threw out a first pitch.
okay. We'll get to that though coming up in another chapter of the Eras tour. So yeah, that's how that kind of progressed. We wanted to say, hey, we love this team and we love this city, and here's how we're gonna do it with a song and a video, and we'll incorporate it. And then they kind of said, hey, we love what you are doing. Not only that, but I think that the station and the format of the music kind of hit with the audience at the right time. We were seeing a lot of great reaction in the ratings. We were starting to see great success quickly during this time.
Man, I remember just now kind of going through all this. I feel like this era for us was so pure. Aside from the differences and the creative differences and the just, the arguments and things that you and I were having, looking back on this now, it just feels like it was so unadulterated. You know what I mean? And I think that is why it was so successful so early on. It was authentically us. And gosh, those were so fun to make, like looking back on that. I'm sure that there were some hiccups here and there, but there always is whenever you make anything, there's always going to be hiccups, but we were flying for sure. And it felt good.
It did. And it does to look back too. Like, I remember while we were shooting that video, trying to recreate moments from the Macklemore video, because it was such a big video at the time. And we were like, let's have you roll in here just like he did on this spot. And
shot for shot for a little bit. I think I held it shot for shot for maybe the first like 45 seconds or so. It was pretty close. So
once again, I am back to tell you how ahead of our time we were in those moments. Looking back, I just don't know if anybody really like saw what we were doing. But the numbers were there, and we started to realize that we were getting that traction. Feel like in these first, how long was it till we renegotiated? Because I feel like we were there like a year. And we had signed a couple of year deal, if I remember correctly, but we had seen success. So they re-signed us quickly.
Yeah. I think we were re-signed 3 or 4 times in the first 5 years. If I'm not mistaken. And I think that first one, the first raise came after, I think it was maybe 2012. So it was maybe a little less than 2 years after we had been on the air that we got our first renegotiation or re-upped our contract, which basically, for me, I was like, well, we're not done with the initial agreement. What are they trying to do? Well, they're trying to lock us down so that we don't go anywhere else, is essentially what that play is. And we'll offer you more money to stay. Thank you for the advertising dollars. Let's continue this partnership kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I look back and I think there's this we just needed a big company to have our back and give us the push. And I know that what we're doing is going to be successful. You know what I mean? And it was on our local level. And I think we had like bigger plans, you know what I mean? And we knew what we needed to do, but there were still all these other like very cool moments in between, that first year and that big re-sign. So we were finding our footing and seeing success from the things that we were starting to create in these first few years. There were a lot of like moments that we had that lead up to what we were talking about, where they want to re-sign us and where they say, oh, you guys are doing great, we love it. And the ratings that we were seeing as well, because there was this station, this legendary station that had been the big country leader forever, that was starting to slowly come down from its perch.
Yep.
And we were starting to make a dent.
It was old and tired. And,
right.
We were the young, energetic, willing to do whatever it took to build an audience. And that was affected everything that they were doing on the other side of the street, for sure.
Yeah, they didn't, like, again, I mentioned in previous episodes, they didn't want to like hang out with listeners. They were always in like the back at concerts, and we were up front in front of people on the streets, like just out there working. And there were all these moments in between, the first couple of years that I think were leading to really our success.
Yeah. I think there's one in particular that stands out for me, and I don't know I think it was just my wanting to network or wanting to push the show into something bigger. Syndication was always something that was interesting to me, at least at that point. And so our boss, Steve, at the time, had always talked about this one show in Austin, Texas, and how it was so good and all the characters were very well defined. And, we needed to listen to the show and take some cues from them and what they were doing and all the things. And I remember listening to that show and reaching out to the main host, who everybody very much knows, and asked for mentorship. I don't know if I said, hey, can you mentor me? But it was more like, hey, I've got a couple questions, would love to pick your brain sometime. And, like logistical questions. We're talking like, how do you show prep? How do you share ideas? How do you, how do you have extra help? Like the intern program, all of that kind of stuff was kind of spawned from these conversations that I was having with this guy.
Because he was also a show that was syndicated on a bunch of smaller stations as well. So
yeah,
kind of had some of what we were thinking about going on, if I remember correctly. So yeah,
Yep.
While we were going through all of this, you were chatting with him?
Yeah. And he was top 40 at the time. So all the pop music. Was, they had dabbled, they had started doing some videos here and there. And we would just talk every once in a while. And, then it got a little odd because there was an opening, or a soon to be opening, on our top 40 station in the mornings. But was it MJ? It's so weird that MJ was on the mornings, and because he's a political guy now, right?
He is now, but he used to be part of a legendary morning show, MJ and BJ, that was on in Florida for the longest time. Like on, I think it was FLZ, legendary station, legendary show, like legendary icons in the business, and they parted ways. And I believe MJ continued, but his show, he did this show, which was syndicated because you had like your Elvis Durans that were like the big top 40 show that were on stations all over from New York to the other coast. And most formats have these now, but they were just really starting to implement them at the time. So that show wasn't on in St. Louis. This other show was after MJ's run ended, because I think MJ wrapped up his top 40 run as a whole. And then he went, because he's doing talk radio now. And then this show came on after on KSLZ, right?
Yeah. So our conversations went from very much like, here's a little tip, here's a little tip, here's a little tip, to hey, can you do you know any information about this gig? Do you know who they're going to hire? Do you know if they want it to be local? Do you know? And it was just like I didn't feel this at the time because I was viewing everything, literally everything, with rose-colored glasses, and I was just blinded by everything because I had one thing in mind, and that was to make our show the best that it could possibly be, and to make moves to make it that. And I didn't realize that I was just being pumped for information, essentially, at the time. And could it be just two friends that are just kind of, going back and forth on some information? Sure. But like in the end, it got a little weird there. So, but we had remained friends. We had stopped kind of these Skype calls that we were having, but this will, I guess, play a role. Me reaching out to this person will play a role in our overall career, in good ways and in not so good ways. So,
yeah, I didn't know that this was happening. But I didn't know that Remy was doing this, but this was very much like your style. And you had kind of mentioned that you were so hungry and you were so eager and, for lack of a better term, and green, right? In the time you were new in the industry, you just wanted everybody to know who we are and what we were doing. And I remember when you were like, let's network, let's talk to people. I was like, all these dirty radio people are just going to steal your ideas. Don't talk to them. You know what I mean? They're all shysters and they're all thieves. Don't talk to. I was definitely speaking from a position of I am and have trust. Like I know what this is. But and in many ways smart. Remy didn't listen to me. So
I did not. No.
No, but we'll come back to that because that was in the midst of all of these awesome things that we were doing while we were making songs and shooting music videos. There were, fundraisers. You connect in so many different ways with different people. I think the goal for me in what we were doing, and not just in radio, but like as a whole, was to form some sort of emotional connection with people. I think you could argue whether or not that was an I hate this or an I love this. I didn't really care. You know what I mean? Like in the world of let's have a great debate, you take the side that everybody will like. I don't care. I'll be the villain in this one. You're crazy. You know what I mean? As long as we could get just a little bit of your attention, that was the goal, right? So that's what we were doing in this time. And there were different ways to go about that. You could have that great debate where I could say, or I could have this wild take. Like, what? No, I would totally keep the baseball if I caught the ball and I was right next to some kid. My ball. I've waited 40 years, 40 years to catch that ball. Screw that kid. So then I would be the villain, right? And of course we'd put Remy in the light of he's the best. He's the good guy. Like, of course. I thinking about this earlier too. Many times we looked at it as Remy had somewhat of the female perspective of a morning show. We didn't have a female co-host, so it was just two guys. And in order to avoid it being just two bros broing, we had to like kind of have Remy take, or one of us would take, one of those positions that may not suit us or be us, but it was for the show. We're doing those things. That's one way to connect with people. There's other ways. We had charity broadcasts with the Children's Miracle Network, where we would kind of take a break from like we're having silly, wacky fun and playing jams to slow things down and kind of shine some attention on the kids in the children's hospitals and say, hey, these organizations need help because they do some great things. And that's where we met Kayla and her family. And we did a series of interviews with Kayla and told her story about what she was going through. And I feel like this was maybe a month or two before Kayla passed away.
Yeah.
And that was, I feel like one of the more impactful moments for me, where I was just like plugging along and drinking beers and having fun and writing songs. And then I realized, wait, there's a whole nother way to go about this. Like, there's a whole other world of people out there and a way to connect with people. Some of the last moments that Kayla had speaking to people were on video with us. And so her family in the years moving forward connected with us in that way that, we had the last videos of her last days, you know what I mean? And when that shit's heavy, man. It's real.
Yeah. And
That's
I
what,
don't. I have the video, and I don't really want to play it for fear of just getting emotional over it. But
there might be some tears.
yeah, it's just like you said. I don't think that for me, being the green guy, did not anticipate the weight of what those Children's Miracle Network radiothons would bring, oh my gosh, if I would have had kids at the time, there's no way to get through that. And she had I forget what lung disease. Do you remember what it was?
Not off the top of my head.
You have fluid in your lungs, and so she had all these treatments. And I remember one of the treatments that they were experimenting with her was a treatment that made her lose her hearing.
Yeah.
And it's like anything you take to survive. And we're all, trying to raise money and trying to be positive, and and they're going through like real stuff. And I will never forget the moment when her mom, she had a Justin Bieber cardboard cutout in her room, and it just traveled with her from room to room. And she gave it to us, and I still have it. It's in our storage room. But that thing will never be thrown away. I can't.
It's been protected since it was handed to us. And that was 5 stations ago, right? Like we got that in 2011, 2012. So like we did an interview with Kayla. I remember I was back in Michigan visiting some friends in May. It was like a month or 2 later. We got the news that she had passed away. And then, like we inherited her Justin Bieber stand-up, cardboard stand-up. And it's been with us since. When we left St. Louis and went to Chicago, Bieber came with us, and he was in the corner of the studio. When we came back to St. Louis, Bieber was with us in the office, always wearing hats and lays, and he was always there as a constant reminder of Kayla and that connection that we made. Did you say you had that video? Do you want to pop that on? It's time to get real for a second, bud. Just for a second.
You want to do this?
If you're okay, we don't have to watch the whole thing, but I want.
We can play a little bit.
Yeah.
Let me pull it up really quick.
There's like, it's a real heavy topic, right? But it happened. And I think that was another reason that I talked about liking the audience in country music, was they were able to handle real things, because real things happen. I don't think they would have let us, if we were actually on a top 40 station, talk about some of the things that we talked about, because it's just, I don't know, country music's just more real for some reason.
All right, here's a little clip.
It was a couple of months back when we talked first, but since then you've had that treatment that may have affected her hearing. What happened?
She does have a hearing loss from it. She's has a lot of ringing in her ears, but she can still hear. Unfortunately, they are just doing the best that they can right now.
So what's the next step for you guys?
Well, they're doing a culture on her as we speak, and depending upon how much of that bacteria is in her lungs, they may be able to take her off of the medication, but if not, hopefully prevent it from getting any worse.
So how are you feeling?
Well, the last couple weeks have been really hard for me. They are doing the best that they can to make me feel better. I'm in pain all the time. And
we can pause if you want to stop, bud. It was cystic fibrosis. That Kayla was dealing with. She was 12, and the treatment was taking her hearing, listening to her mom. I'm gonna get emotional. Listening to her mom basically say, "There's not much they can do." That's tough. That's tough for 2 guys trying to rap goofy songs on the radio. But it brought, I think, a new side of us out, which showed people that we were different. We weren't just that. And we could have these conversations, and we could do these things. And we then realized that these moments were so much more impactful than making people laugh. Like these connections are so much more. And I mean, we did these broadcasts each year. We started to realize like, this is the real stuff. This is the real things that are happening right now in people's lives. And we can never forget how lucky we are every day. Because I mean, we're still friends with Maggie, Kayla's mom, and a lot of the family. So we still think of Kayla pretty often.
Yeah.
Kayla had a huge impact on us.
It's also crazy to think that 2,700 views and probably 2,600 our family, revisiting that. It's been out there, I don't think we ever, maybe it was private at one point, but it was always accessible. I think we gave them the raw video file so that her mom could have that forever, because I think that was the last time that anybody had interviewed her on camera, because it wasn't very long after that she had passed. But yeah, I
I could hear it in her voice.
Sorry.
I know, it's all right. I could hear it in her mom's voice there, where she was like kind of explaining that they're doing the best they can is like code for it's there's not much time left. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it was just, it hit me at that moment how lucky and real, like how lucky we are and how real these moments are for other folks.
Yeah. And I would guess that was probably one of the defining moments for us to be able to talk about this kind of stuff on the air, because we would encounter things like the Las Vegas, shootings and things that happened at the Jason Aldean concert, and all of these tragic events that happened, through the years that you and I were together. And it wasn't until recently, like sans you're out of the picture. It's just me and Casey. And that we didn't talk about the serious stuff. And I didn't realize how difficult it was for some people to talk about that on the air. But I think that those were the kinds of moments that did kind of set us apart from the other radio stations, who I remember, we'd talk about some tragedy that had happened on the air, and we'd give maybe a police officer had got shot or something, and we'd back it, and we'd be all over it, and we'd cover it. And all the other radio stations in town are just, yucking it up and playing real or fake still, and just all the things. And you could argue that, yes, radio is an escape for a lot of people and to kind of like drown out what's actually happening. But I think it was Kayla and Children's Miracle Network that really showed us that when you can relate to people on a different level that isn't just yuck and funny, that creates a bond that most radio shows don't have with their listeners. So
no, 100% right. And crazy to think that I feel like I was in that world. I was in that, like, I don't know how to emotionally connect. So funny, haha, is how I handle these moments. But found a new superpower in those moments as well, I feel like.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
There were a lot of those kind of moments that set us apart, I think. And in that same touching on being helpful in Boatload of Toys, which we talked about a little bit, we were helping youth in need. We would meet a lot of those families, a lot of those folks who benefited from that. I know I went to like the Salvation Army when I was a kid. My parents were working. I had day camp at the Salvation Army. I know we worked with those folks quite a bit as well. But these were different ways to kind of connect with the communities that you were in and try to help out and do what you can. So we had these different moments along our journey that helped us to define who we are, not just the, Children's Miracle Networks and Boatload of Toys, but also like all the cool things, those moments of going to CMA Fest and really like diving into country music when we did not know country music. We had a very quick adoption and crash course into what is country music. Who are these artists? You better not mess up these names. These folks know when you're lying. Like, I remember that. Yep. Don't act like you know. These folks know.
Yeah.
So we went to Nashville in those first couple of years too, and we went to the CMA Fest. where we get to interview all these artists. I think we've showed a couple of those videos where they were like coming up. Young Jason Aldean comes up to the table and talks to us. Meanwhile, Remy and I are like, what are we doing? I don't know what's happening. Here's another artist. Hey, artist. Hey, how you doing? Let's talk about stuff. Yeah, it's great. All right. Okay, God. We're on the air in 2 minutes and we don't know what we're going to say. You know what I mean? All of these things are happening at the same time. We're getting our footing and we're trying to figure out how to put a live show on from Nashville. And meanwhile, they're having these icons of country music are rolling through. I remember my most embarrassing moment in those first visits to Nashville. We're thinking that we wanted to be different. We wanted to stand out. I didn't want to do what I thought everybody else was doing. You would see the same guys who have been on the air for 30 years. Hey, Vince Gill is up on stage. Hey, Vince, it's Jeffity Jeff from WWWW in whatever. I just wanted to say I'm a huge fan of your work and I love your songwriting style. When it comes to the songwriting style between you and your writers, where like who gives a shit? No offense, I'm sorry. No, if you want that, more power to you. I'm bored. Yeah. When I had my moment with Vince Gill, I fully embarrassed myself, the show, the call letters, almost the industry. But I was risking it. I was rolling those dice. I did not want to go the regular route. This was a year, much like this year, where we're having a lot of talk about the cicada population. I asked Vince Gill about cicadas. It was dumb. It was very dumb. What's that?
It cut through.
It definitely cut through in that I think everybody laughed at me, and not in the way that I was hoping. not in the way that I was like, ha, funny guy. What do you got to say, Vince?
Yeah.
It was more like, huh? Right? Was that the reaction, I think, in the room?
Also in that moment when I was like, did he just pull a Remy? That's something that would come out of my mouth.
I do remember multiple times getting frustrated with Remy trying to keep him on the course, right? Like trying to be like, I very much remember some of our first things. What was it? What was I said, how are you? And you said hot dog one time or something like that. Pancakes. Yeah. Like that sticks in my head as like, I'm always going to have to show this guy where the road is. Because he always wants to go off road, which is one of the beautiful things about you. Don't get me wrong. But in those moments, I was like, no, stay on the road, not now. But of course, then here's me going, now we off road. Hey, Vince Gill, what do you think about the cicadas? Legendary guitarist and songwriter in the country music world. It's our first year in Nashville. Hey, Vince Gill, what do you think about those cicadas?
I think you might have asked something about, have you ever taken it like, maybe I'm conflating this with a cicada song that we made or something, but if you asked him if he had drawn any inspiration from the cicadas, or I don't remember what the exact question was, but it was like it was very much the room was all looking at Mason as he stood up in front of everybody and asked this question, and then this is after all of those questions that you just said that were like, tell me about your songwriting. Or my favorite is when a DJ kind of knows the country, like they've got history with them. And they're like, yeah, so I just saw that your wife, Deborah, and your kids, you were out on a boat. And oh my gosh, I was just talking with your kids and they seemed like they had a lot of fun. And, to kind of, you immediately establish dominance over the room because Vince Gill. You know what I mean? Right. And then here comes Mason with the cicada question. It was all very, very good. Scary in the moment, but we're laughing about it now. And I think
some might call me a legend. I might be those people, but that's still, it was a moment. I don't think a lot of people would have had the guts to do it. I don't think anybody realizes how ahead of my time we were. Once again, just like here in 2014, it still holds up. I would ask Vince Gill is it 2014, 2024? Here in this year, I would ask Vince Gill again about cicadas just to go back and hit on that. And I'd hope that he'd go, am I having deja vu?
I remember you.
Yeah, like you do. All part of the plan. Yeah. So there were these moments where we would go to Nashville and interview these artists, and it was in a time where we were like, I don't know who this guy is from the next one. But there were those artists that were huge. There were those moments that break through for you. Do you want to jump around since we're talking about Nashville and CMA Fest stuff? Do you want to jump a couple years into the future when we would meet Garth Brooks?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Let's talk about business, Garth.
Okay. So I think that you had made a note that, like, as we started growing, we were kind of looked at more for input.
Yeah. So the meeting that we were invited to in Nashville was something that I think every major radio company did. iHeart specifically did this. They're called music meetings, where you get all of the major music decision makers in radio, i.e. music directors and program directors, invite them all to essentially, I think we might have sat in, it was very reminiscent of a college seminar room. And everybody sits around and they've got their notepads. New label comes up. They give a presentation about their new artists. New artist plays maybe 3 songs. And then, oh, surprise, our big artist is here, Miranda Lambert. And
wow.
Miranda Lambert, Blake Shelton too. Oh, it's great. So they tease you, they get you into it with the new artist, and then all of a sudden they bring out the big guy. Well, this was right when Garth Brooks had started his own music label. What was it called? Ghost Records or something?
Yeah, Ghost. He had his own Napster or something like that, right?
Yeah, you couldn't get his music on any other platform aside from this.
Ghost Tunes.
Ghost Tunes, yeah. Go look it up on Amazon, can't find it. Go look at Spotify, can't find Garth Brooks. You go to YouTube, it's all some dude singing Garth Brooks covers that kind of sounds like Garth Brooks. And the woman comes out, she says, without further ado, here's Garth Brooks. And this was when Garth was making his resurgence as kind of he was putting his music in the ring with all this bro country that had been kind of happening over the past, years. Florida Georgia Line was in the mix. Jason Aldean was in the mix. These guys. And it just like what was the song? There was one particular song that was just weird. Like it just didn't fit, if that makes sense. Like Garth
Do you
Brooks.
mean the one that we played?
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounded like 90s Garth. Like it was, which by the way, right now might be a huge hit. Right now in the world, in the state of everything, like 90s country might be a huge hit right now with the resurgence we're seeing. But at the time, it did not sound like anything else on the radio. It sounded like a Garth Brooks song from 10 years ago.
Was it Ask Me How I Know?
It might be. Yeah, I think so. No, I think you're right.
That was 2000. Yeah. So it was right around. So we have to ahead in the future a little bit. So like 2016 is when this was happening. And so Ask Me How I Know was out there. And he got up on stage, and we had interviewed Garth on the phone before, and it was so easy. I remember getting off the phone and being like, oh my gosh, that was the easiest interview I've ever done in my life. He's so nice. He's such a great guy. And he gets up in front of everybody, all these program directors and these music directors. And he says, why aren't you guys playing my new music? In like a not happy Garth way.
We did not meet the Garth Brooks, we met business Garth on this day.
Yes. And it was impactful for me, specifically because I had been, given this shroud of whatever he presents to the people, right? And then you see the money side, and it's an entirely different person. And then I start to go, wait, is this whole like Garth Brooks thing an act? Is this all just fake? Is it, how many other artists are doing this? And then I go into this like existential crisis of what is Hollywood? What is Nashville? What are all these things? Are people just playing characters to sell records? And I think that Tom Segura was right all along. And he might have bodies buried in his yard.
We have had great conversations even after that with Garth and his wife. Like the Garth that you see, the customer facing Garth is a great Garth. He's the guy you want to know. I'm just looking, and it was shortly after that, March 3rd, 2017, when Ghost Tunes ceased operations, when he finally went over and said, okay, Amazon, you can sell my music, because obviously no one's coming to Ghost Tunes to get my stuff. But I remember listening to that and going, it sounds like old Garth, and that's not where we are right now. And yeah, I remember him specifically like lambasting radio and going like, my daughters don't listen to your stations. I don't know why you wouldn't be playing my music. Like it was a different guy than I expected, and it changed. I remember it changed my views, and
100%.
ever since then, anytime somebody brings up Garth, I go, do I want to, drop this into your cereal, if you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like, because you're not going to like this.
Yeah.
But that is very much a thing. And meeting business Garth and getting to the business side of whatever is happening there, like really turned a light bulb on, I think, when it came to some of this stuff and seeing the business side of it.
Yeah. It was another chip away at the armor for me, because as I started to see kind of the underbelly of how the music industry works, and it was not what I thought, in my naive mind, it was like, oh my gosh, you come up, you're talented, you got a great voice, you got a good stage presence, you're putting out good music, then you deserve to have the spotlight and you deserve to get the popularity and all the things. And then to see how manufactured that all was at those music meetings, very much, we're shoving streaming numbers in your face the entire time. We're trying to present these artists to you as if to say, play them, there will be money for you at some point. I don't know. I just, the underbelly of any industry sucks, and every industry has them. But this is kind of a turning point for me, because I'm seeing that, all right, this is maybe not as passionate and maybe more money driven than I originally anticipated. So seeing that was jarring. It was, and I have ruined people's perception of Garth Brooks, including one of my best friends, Ashley, who still hates me to the day for telling her everything that I told her from that meeting. But
a lot of people, of course, a lot of people say don't meet your heroes, and I think this is one of those moments where, and look, I like a number of bands, and I recall like being a huge Dave Matthews Band fan, the opportunity coming up, and I'm going, no, I don't want to. What I have in my head is what I want. Don't ruin it. You know what I mean? Like after that experience with Garth, I never wanted to meet another person that I looked somewhat up to. I would much rather hold them in this light than find out that they're a douchebag. So yeah, Garth Brooks kind of a douchebag. I guess that's a moral of the story there. I can only share my experience, and my experience wasn't great. Like all the like, hey, I'm here to entertain some people. Great entertainer. You know what I mean? Kudos. Not many artists can say, no, I control where my music comes from. That's a big deal. Kudos to Garth. But also, weird, man.
Hey, y'all. It's Garth Brooks. Welcome to the G Spot, or the studio, G Wagon. Where are we?
He was doing Facebook Lives for a while in Studio G. That's what it was. That's what
Studio G.
G Spot. My God, how great would it have been if Garth suddenly went X-rated and was like, "What's up?" He grew the little thing back here. Welcome back,
Chris Gaines. Yeah,
Chris Gaines. That should have been the sign, dude. Look at this guy playing another role in the middle of playing a role. So meta. What an actor playing an actor.
Yep.
I'm sorry. If you like Garth and you like that music, no disrespect to you, like the songs still hold like big places in people's hearts. All that history is there. That shouldn't take any of that away. Just, I'm sure that there are people who would double down on it and be like, hell yeah, Garth can do that. That's cool. But when you were in that room, didn't feel cool. I'll tell you what, probably sounds cool when you're not involved, but when he's looking at you and going, why not? And I kind of want to go like, this is why, bro. What are you talking about? Yep. Why are you yelling at me about not playing your music instead of, I don't know, making new music?
This side of Garth Brooks will return in a future episode. Once we come back to St. Louis, there's a little bit of manipulation that his camp did because we didn't play his single, because it wasn't awesome. And we'll talk about that in a future episode.
The politics of the radio game. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those moments in between our rise and our fall, which we'll get to here in just a second, that we're like, can't believe this is happening. Working with the Cardinals was huge. Going to the iHeart Country Festival,
Yeah.
was another thing that we got to do. When you think about being put on the big stage, how does a company show that they're invested in you? Well, this was one of those moments where it felt like, wow, they really like us, where they sent us off to present part of what was their iHeart Country brand, which had recently launched, right? We had iHeart Radio. Now they had the iHeart Country brand that was kind of, to sum up the country branch of what we were doing. Do you have that?
I have the Yahoo live stream that when we did a hit in between artists at the iHeart Country Festival, and this was like, I think maybe the first or second year of the iHeart Country Festival, and it was big. Like it was huge.
Were
So
we in Austin for this?
Yeah, this was in Austin at the wherever the Texas Stadium or something. I don't know what whatever the campus is. Whatever
The Longhorns
Austin
are there,
campus.
right? Yeah. Okay.
So here's that clip, and I think we pop on here.
Yeah.
Maybe. There we are.
There we go.
What's up, guys? It's Mason and Remy, and we are from iHeart Radio. It's our iHeart.
You killed it.
You were not paying attention, so and they like gave us the cue. Like you were talking to somebody, and so I was like, "It's Mason and Remy."
You did that. It might have been the first and only time you've ever said it's Mason and Remy. It's
Yeah,
always
here we
just been
go.
and Remy.
I'll play it again.
Okay.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Mason and Remy, and we are from iHeart Radio. It's our iHeart Radio Country Festival, an unbelievable day. Little Big Town is amazing. By the way, Girl Crush, right now, one of the most played songs by a group in country radio. Everybody in the stadium was singing Boondocks. It was an amazing moment. Hey, and just wanted to let you know, you can get all this awesome merchandise. We got this really cool hat online. Go to iHeartRadio.com/Country Festival. It's been an amazing night. There's still big stars coming up here tonight. There's a ton of, come here. This girl's celebrating her 18th birthday. What's your name? Skylar. Congratulations on being 18 for the iHeartRadio Country Festival. This is a good night for you?
Yes, I came all the way from Florida.
Oh, that's awesome. What's your favorite artist here tonight?
Sam Hunt.
You're waiting.
Sam Hunt, yeah.
It's coming very soon. Remember to keep tweeting all night with the hashtag iHeartCountry. All night. We're already trending. It's been an amazing night. I just wanted to say Brantley Gilbert's here. Yeah. Tim McGraw is here. Yeah. Sam Hunt is here. So the guns are in the building. That's for sure. Absolutely. Can't wait to see it all tonight. Remember to follow along on Instagram.
All right.
You all done with that?
I'm done with that.
Don't want to live there anymore. I got it. And that's all right.
What you don't see before this happens is the camera, the harvesting of young, attractive people to make a semicircle around us so that it looks filled in.
Feels weird.
The girl that you interviewed was pre-selected. We had note cards, which is why I laughed so hard with the merch thing, because it's like we had to hit the merch. We had to hit the NBC or ABC or whatever record, like the live recording or whatever. So we had to hit all these things, and I don't know. That moment was so exhilarating, and then I watched it back, and I was like, I usually don't black out when I'm speaking, but I definitely did there. And then watched it and I was like, ooh, not the best, but it was a very cool opportunity for us.
It was a long time ago. Now at this point it was a decade ago, and it was one of I feel like one of the first live streams. These things are very common now. But we didn't exactly know how to watch it or how to tell people to watch it. Like it was streaming on Yahoo, I think, and then would air maybe a couple weeks later on NBC. But that was also a way that the company was like, hey, you're doing good. We want to send you out. You're representing the company well. We want to send you guys to our big festival that we're going to do that's going to broadcast. I don't think we made the TV cut. We were just on the web.
On the live
in
stream,
between. We did like that one hit on the web stream. And I remember we were there for so long. I think we met the guy that ran the company for a second, and and a couple of people. Like we felt like hot stuff because that was the extent of the nice jobs. You know what I mean? We're like sending you to go do this stuff. So Another one, like we went to Cancun, right? We went to go broadcast the show live from Cancun. Double-edged sword. We love you guys. We want you to go and do this cool stuff. Work the whole time. Go to Austin, stress out. Go to Cancun, wake up early and do the show. So it was this double-edged sword of, we want, you guys are doing great. Go do great more on the weekends.
Yeah.
or however, you know, it in your head, you're riding the wave of success, and in your background, you're like, damn, I'm working a lot. Do you have some Cancun stuff? Because I remember.
I do. Do you want me to mute this? Because it's basically just Casey James's song throughout. It's like a music video.
Yeah,
I can
yeah,
mute it.
please
We can
do.
talk through it.
Please do. We can talk over top of it, because I know that we're already going to get eaten alive by copyright issues on watching all these videos. But we went to Cancun with, let's give a shout out to Mike and Travel House.
Yeah.
One of several sponsors that we want to give a little bit of love, because they helped us in our actual lives and our professional lives, and they're good people.
Yeah.
Mike and everybody at Travel House, I think they did both of our honeymoons. They lined up this trip for us with Casey James, who was an American Idol competitor at the time.
I think he got like 4th place or something, 4th or 5th or something like that. But
Yeah.
we took a bunch of listeners with us on a plane, and this was supposed to be the start, I think, of come-alongs with us. And we were supposed to build on it every year, and the artists would get bigger every year. And it never really took off. But I have to say, one of the more pivotal moments for me as a radio show DJ was broadcasting live from the beach, like actually feet in the sand, recording audio. I thought that was the coolest thing.
Toes in the water, like a Zach Brown band song. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That was it's you and the wife out there. These are a bunch of listeners that were with us. Whiskey Dixon, big shout out to Whiskey Dixon, who came with us on the trip and played as well. Right? They played on the beach.
Yep.
If I remember, yeah, they're right there.
Yep.
So what a great time. We took a bunch of listeners with us. Remember when we talked about how Susan took a vacation? It was like this. She would go on the air and say, hey, come with us to wherever. This was what we were doing. And it felt like we were a real morning show, right? Like we were really doing it. People are listening. They know us. They're connecting with us. They know the station. This is a walk out to the beach. Yeah. Like from the balcony, at the Hard Rock Hotel in Cancun.
Yeah. This was super fun, but also it was work, at the same time. We did the Friday jam on the beach. There's me playing the guitar.
We did. I think there were some explicit versions of the Friday jam that happened at that.
Yeah.
Like imagine Total Eclipse of the Heart, but from that movie. Remember, it was basically that Friday jam was like that. But it was one of those things that we wanted to create. The only people who saw that Friday jam were the folks who went. You know what I mean? That was an intimate moment where we all went on a vacation together. We took our significant others. We had an amazing time. So a big shout out if you have a need for a travel agent, Mike at Travel House in St. Louis, HAUS.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored, but they deserve all the shout outs because they're one of the good ones.
Yeah. And I think that they're one of the advertisers that got, for lack of a better term, screwed by the radio industry.
Yep. Yeah. We'll mention a couple others probably along the way because we had just these corporate initiatives. Like another one, might as well take the initiative here to talk about Mortz Royce, who got your wedding ring for you, was a great partner and an endorsement for you in the show. And then along comes Valentine's Day and the company decides that they have a bigger account, a national account, that they were going to just push this local guy off to the side. Sorry. I know it's Valentine's Day and you probably want to tell people to come buy diamond rings, but we have a national company we're going to use all this time for. It really soured the relationship between the company and Mortz Royce, and he then did not advertise anymore. Something outside of our control, but another great advertising partner and a sponsor who supported the show and got the shaft, not from us.
Yeah. I bet you want that money now.
Well, as we get to a lot of money that was lost in the upcoming months and years following this journey, because we've been talking about all these very cool things. You got married in here somewhere too. in these years. So much was happening during this time. And in the background, you had kind of mentioned reaching out to some folks for guidance. Remy and I had our creative differences. So when I kind of was like, hey, we should do it like this, I think a lot of the time you were like, are you sure that's the only way? Do I have to do what you said? Like to maybe have my own input or maybe find another source. I could understand that. That's totally acceptable. But Remy was going other places to talk to other people, which I had advised against. So it probably felt even more right for you to do it. Oh yeah, Mason doesn't want me to do this. I'm going to do this twice.
Yeah, a little bit of a rebellious nature for sure.
But you had the best intentions because you wanted our show to grow. We had these aspirations. We talk about what they can do to grow. They tell you we can put you on a bunch of stations. The company we were working for had 800 radio stations. So how do we do that? We had found other shows that were doing it. One of them being this one that Remy reached out to had like a lot of smaller markets that were coming up and was starting to get into that expansion mode. We wanted to do that. So I feel like you probably had the best of intentions reaching out, going, how do we do that? Mm-hmm. That's not where we ended up going though, was it?
Not in the long run. We were teased a lot about it, or teased with it, I guess you could say, but that never actually panned out. But yeah, the mentorship turned into something else quickly.
Yeah, we had sites set on Nashville. There was a show that was on the air for years there, decades. Jerry House, who was retiring at the time. And then they put on another show afterwards and tried another show. And we were like, guys, we're seeing success. How do we get there? And so I think you were trying to find that answer, right? Initially in looking out, but correct me if I'm wrong. If you just maybe didn't show the door to them.
I cannot correct you.
Okay.
Can I correct you?
Okay, fair. So here's Remy trying to network. Like what happened in those weeks and months? Because you had said you were reaching out, you were talking with these folks and picking their brain, but then we got a call.
We did.
I don't know if there's anything else we want to go into before that.
I just remember having a very different thought than you about this call. It was the day before the Super Bowl in 2013, correct?
Yep, February 2013, yeah.
And it was from that point on that everything changed. For better and for worse. But I think that was the ultimate, I just always have this thought that everything happens in radio in 3-year increments. There's some, if nothing changes, they will make something happen so that something changes. And if you can survive all of those 3-year increments, good for you. If you're you, man, and you survived a lot of 3-year increments, good for you. But for some reason, we always got caught up in those 3-year increments. And so that call changed everything. I was just happy at that point that we still had a job.
The call that we're talking about.
There he is, the fly.
I'm telling you, only at the most pivotal part. The call that we're talking about is the call that we were not going to be doing mornings anymore. 3 successful, upward climbing years to be shown none of it mattered. A corporate decision happened, but we need you guys to help us make it work. Now, here we are a couple years in, having our contracts renegotiated, probably making the most money of our lives, doing exactly what we wanted to do. And we're being told that we still have a job. We're just not going to do mornings anymore, which is what we wanted. We wanted to do mornings. But they were putting a syndicated show on out of Nashville, which may, bring country music to listeners. And we were just finding out that that's not the route you had to go to actually break through. Remember, our philosophy was not to be so country, but to be so lifestyle. We were just in on what was happening in the world, not so much the country world. I I think that some folks saw what we were doing and found a way to take that and run with it. I think that in you reaching out to try and say, hey, how can we follow in your footsteps? These folks then took advantage of you being young and naive. And then I may be using the wrong, it seems like a summary that isn't right, but they basically like were stealing the idea that we had to like not necessarily do what we're doing, but go where we wanted to go. We were asking, hey, how do we get there? And the person you asked went there.
Yeah. And I don't think it's until this very moment that I've really put all of that together. I don't know how it was presented to me at the time, and we can get into this in the next episode.
Ooh.
But I don't know how it was presented to me at the time, but I felt somewhat okay with it. I know you felt very differently about that because all you ever wanted to do was mornings. And at this point, I'm starting to build a life, and so are you. House, wife, family on the way, things happening. You know, we're hunkering down, bought a house, all the things, right? And now this upheaval happened, and the radio industry shows its ugly face at an inopportune moment, I guess.
So a couple of things too on this point. Had they offered this to us, I can't say we wouldn't have jumped at it. You know what I mean? This is the downfall of part of the, I think the cannibalization of radio is that all of us hate it or hated it when someone took our jobs, but we would have taken those jobs in a heartbeat if it was added, if it was offered, right? Like if it was
coming into St. Louis.
Right.
Kind of.
Exactly. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. We put somebody out of work to take that to come into work. That's how jobs work. But this was a rug pull. This felt very much like a shady situation. And it felt a lot like I don't want to use this as a told you so, but I felt a lot like a damn it, why couldn't you listen to me? Like, why didn't you hear what I was saying? This is exactly what we didn't want to happen. But it was there, and this changed me. This changed me as a person because we could not have been more successful than we were in these months. The ratings were there. The revenue was there. We were just on a rise. And the only reason that we lost that momentum is because of a corporate initiative started by somebody who would not have even known if we hadn't called them. Might not have even known. This is like it's a difficult thing to like talk about and because this, like I said, changed me. This is where I learned that no matter, I was always of the mindset, if you work hard and you grind every day, how can they screw you over? They showed me. I learned. Swallow your pride, keep on working, got to pay the bills, want to have a life, like you said. What are we going to do? Walk away from the money, from the career? A lot of people say the only things you can control are how you react to things. So we tried our best to be, still somewhat new in the company and still knowing like, hey, there will be other opportunities. Maybe this one isn't it, right? We tried the best to put on a good face. And we moved to afternoons. I specifically remember that Super Bowl, like being invited over to a Super Bowl party of the general manager and going, what the hell am I doing right now? Why am I here? I only want to throw middle fingers at everyone in this room. But swallowed it down and continued to do the work. We worked in the afternoon for a while. I don't know how much more. I know we're getting long on this episode. I don't know how much more we want to dive into here because we've really revealed a lot of what was happening at this time. We had a lot of success, and for whatever reason, for lack of a better summary, our own company shot us in the foot. In the name of something bigger than us, and from what I understand, millions of dollars in lost revenue at the time. I remember we had so many deals going with businesses in the morning that by losing us in the morning, we were essentially losing revenue for the company. This decision was disputed, and they said, it doesn't matter. They cut a line. Stations at this level and below are all getting this show. And we were at that level. Like St. Louis started here. And then it was all the cities underneath it.
I remember I think what made it better was that we did have a job, or how I justified it in my mind is that we did keep our job, but there were at least 12 to 15 morning shows that were just cut, gone in a day.
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah. That day that it was announced, there were morning shows that were just let go, that were just off into the ether, had to find another job, had to land somewhere else, shows that broke up. These things happen a lot in radio. But it's never to somebody you thought you were making friends with, which is what I think made me the most mad. Second was that you had to do it. First was that I feel like they took advantage of you being young and green and naive, and took your idea and ran with it. But then second was that, oh man, I wish you'd have listened. But I also understand why you wouldn't listen to me. It's definitely, I can't say I'm the smartest guy in the world, and I've made mistakes, so I can understand why. And you want to carve out your own path. So I don't fault you for it on these days, like when we're here living it, talking about it. In those days, I very much was very upset, but I think you understood, having like seen it. Maybe you say you're only now maybe piecing it all together, but like, I felt like I didn't need to say anything after that about it, although I probably did. I think I knew that you knew what had happened. And we were just there going, we were going to keep rolling. So this might be a good place to wrap up this episode, because we'll have a lot more to talk about that. But essentially you reached out to someone to try and grow. And I feel like that you were preyed upon in that moment, and that made me mad. So where did we go from there? How did we handle doing afternoons? How did we end up doing mornings on KLOU? How did we end up doing mornings and afternoons? How to have been done? What? This doesn't make sense, but it happened. It's just it was so weird. And the Taylor Swift thing, how we got in big trouble with Taylor Swift. We're going to talk about it. We'll talk about those things. And really how that loss of what we felt was the biggest thing we'd ever had led to the biggest thing we would ever have. Our biggest opportunity, even bigger than what we had already thought was our biggest. How we ended up in Chicago in the next episode. It's been a good conversation. I hope you are enjoying it. If you're watching this, I hope you're feeling all right, Remy, as we go through it and relive it. I hope I'm not opening up any wounds.
No,
Everything all right?
I think that this has clarified so many things. Like it's clarified the timeline for me. If there's one thing I like to do, it's compartmentalize and put things in little boxes and neat little rows. And this podcast has done a lot of that. So I look forward to continuing, even though I feel like in the next several episodes, it gets tougher to talk about some of the stuff.
It probably will. But to know that we end up back here is the happy ending that we all know is coming, but it's the journey. It's the friends we made along the way, and the enemies as well. But I'm very much enjoying this, and I hope that everybody else, whoever asked, hey, what happened to you guys doing the morning show, now knows the answer. Because I think there were folks who came up to us at concerts and were like, hey, how come you guys aren't on mornings? We were like, let me tell you why.
Yep.
But we couldn't exactly broadcast it. So if you were like one of the 5 or 6 people who knew, welcome in all the new folks to the club who totally understand what was happening now at that time. We'll see you in the next episode, I hope. We have a lot more to talk about, a lot more on our Eras tour to cover, because as we go into the next one, like I said, it's like where we're doing afternoons on the country station, but mornings on an oldies station, and how we ended up failing in what we felt like we're doing everything right on the morning show. And then no, you're not. You're not doing mornings anymore. You know. But now here's a promotion. We'll talk about it in the next episode. It's good to talk to you, my friend. I'll talk to you again soon.
Likewise.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.